Evening. My name is Omar. Uh, I'm Mexican American. I live here in Guadalajara, Mexico. I grew up in Kansas. The reason I'm making this video tonight is some of the current events that have been happening lately in the world. 2 weekends ago, we seen the massacre at Orlando. Omar Mateen being the shooter, and from that we've heard a lot from both the left and right about gun control, about high-powered rifles and banning them, and the song and dance that we always hear every time a tragedy like this happens. So what I want to do is I want to tell you exactly why you need those high-powered rifles, why the Second Amendment needs to stand. See, a lot of people, their argument is that you don't need an AR-15, you don't need a SCAR, you don't need an AK-47 or any of these high-powered rifles to hunt. It's absolutely true. You don't. 30-06 will do you just fine against deer, bear, But that's not why the Second Amendment was written. The Second Amendment was written by the Founding Fathers of America to protect the people. The U.S. Constitution is a document that very clearly binds government. It subjugates government to the will of the people. What we've seen in the last few years, several years actually, is that people are being subjugated by the government now. Or we see these false flag attacks where the government wants to, they use these tragedies to further their agendas. You may, like I said, today's the 21st. You may have, and the shooting happened 2 weekends ago on a Saturday night, Sunday morning. What you probably didn't hear about in the news is what happened this past weekend, this Saturday, in the state of Oaxaca in southern Mexico. And right now, as I'm making this video, we have an all-out civil war of civilians against the state and federal government. Reason being is that the teachers, education workers in this state are protesting and dissenting against a neoliberal reform that's being brought in place by President Enrique Peña Nieto. Now, these people, they started off their protest just like any other protest. They manifest, they take to the streets, and they're very quite peaceful. What happened was, though, that they decided to block one of the main highways, which is an artery per se into the city of Mexico. This pissed a lot of people off. Not only did it piss a lot of people off, it got to the point where the state-owned oil company Pemex started saying that, hey, if we don't get these people out of the way, we can't operate. That's bad for business, according to the federal government. So what do? The governor of Oaxaca sends in state police. Now, right now they're saying that they don't know who started shooting, but the fact is that someone started shooting, and civilians, men, women, and children, are being killed. People have disappeared. I think as of now, it's 14 dead. 20-something odd arrests, 100 others injured. They have many people coming into the hospitals for treatment. It's a war zone right now in the state of Oaxaca. How do you think those people are defending themselves? They're not. They can't. They don't have the means to defend themselves. Mexico has some of the strictest gun laws in the world. There is only one place you can legally buy a gun here in Mexico. It's at an army base in Mexico City, and you have to go through a mountainous amount of red tape to be able to purchase a weapon. So these people don't have the means of defending themselves against the government. They're being shot, they're being killed, they're being arrested. The government is doing whatever the hell it wants. And they can't do anything. The same thing is going on in Venezuela. People they don't have food. They don't have basic foodstuffs to eat. You know, what's the government doing? Nothing. Anytime people dissent, violence erupts. They send in a militarized police force. You know, what do I mean by that? It means, you know, what used to be back in the 90s a SWAT team, that's the entire police force now. Everybody's got tactical gear, tactical weapons. You know, that's every police force now. You hardly ever see a police force now with just uniforms. They've all got tactical gear on. That's how it is in Mexico. That's how it is in most countries now. Why? For the same reason. Anytime there's dissent, shut them down. Don't even argue with them. We don't negotiate. Shut them down. And the people can't respond to these types of government tyrannies. They can't do very much about them. They don't have the weapons to do so. If they did, it'd be an entirely different narrative. You know, that's, people keep saying, you know, we don't need AR-15s to hunt. We need them to protect ourselves from the government. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to go look in Iraq. You don't have to go look in Iran. You don't have to go look, you know, overseas to see how tyrannical governments work. We have them here in Mexico. You know, we have them here. Your southern neighbor, your little brother. I like to think of Mexico as the U.S.'s retarded little brother. In a lot of senses, it is. You know, we're almost as old. You know, Mexico's almost as old as the U.S., but we haven't been able to catch up. We just haven't. But I mean, you know, I look at Americans as my countrymen because that's where I grew up. I'm naturalized. I grew up with Americans. I grew up in America. I graduated high school. You know, then I moved to Mexico. You know, when I got older, I moved over here. You know, to be with family, and you know, so I look at both countries as my countrymen. And it's sad that I come here, and then I'm so used to being able to have certain liberties, certain rights, not liberties, rights in the U.S. And here it's like a big, you know, that's frowned upon. It's like, what? No, come on. And it's normal here. It's normal. And it's wrong. You know, people should be able to dissent the government. A couple years ago, the government here in Mexico was actually trying to pass a law, kind of like the one that they just passed in Canada on the transgender thing, where if you talk shit about a transgender, you get 2 years in jail, something like that, something or other. They actually tried to pass a law that stated that if you talk shit about a politician, you get jail time. You know, fortunately for the people, the law didn't go through, but they're constantly trying to push that type of legislation through. So, a tyrannical government is not something new. It's not something unheard of. They're very real. They're very real today. They're very real right now. So if I were you, stock up on your guns. You know, keep your Second Amendment. You know, the Bible is pretty clear when it says, you know, that the world is going to erupt into, you know, nation will go against nation. The Bible clearly describes a world war. You know, I don't want to be a sitting duck when it happens. I'm sure you don't either. So protect your Second Amendment. Don't sit there and let, you know, the left, a very loud minority, sit there and tell you you don't need guns. Guns kill people. Guns do not kill people. People kill people. People with bad intentions kill people, you know, and they don't need guns to do it. If they want to do it, they'll do it. You know, bombs, knives, what have you. They won't fucking. They'll find a way. If they want to kill you, they'll find a way to kill you. So that's my rant. You know, fight for your Second Amendment. Don't sit there and don't plea bargain. Don't compromise. It's very clear. It's there for a reason, for that reason being tyrannical governments, because they exist. America may not have seen one, or may not feel like it's seen one, you know, in in the recent past, but they're very real. Here in Mexico, we've had them for quite some time, and tyrannical governments have no mercy. They will kill. They think of the Hunger Games. You think those in that movie? You think those soldiers, those thought police is what I like to call them. You think those they cared about the people? No. Peacemakers. That's what they're called. Peacemakers or peacekeepers, something like that. Here in Mexico, they don't care either. Shoot to kill. What are you gonna do? Throw rocks at them? Slingshots? You know? It's like the joke that says, a Mexican brings a knife to a gunfight. There's a reason they say that. We aren't allowed to own guns. We aren't allowed to own anything over a 38 special or a 9. When it comes to handguns. We aren't allowed to own anything other than, bigger than a 30-06 for rifles. Anything bigger than a 16 gauge for shotguns. Those are small weapons. Those are hunting weapons. Those are meant to hunt. They're a 30-06, that's a pretty big slug. About that long, more or less. But you can't sit there and bolt action and keep bolt actioning to fight someone armed with an automatic or semi-automatic rifle. You need something just as powerful and just as effective as theirs to be able to fight against an eye. And when I mean theirs, I mean the governments. These governments, they don't play by the rules. They want to make their own rules and they want to do whatever they want. So, I guess in all, don't sit there and let someone, don't drink the Kool-Aid of the Second Amendment needs to be revised. La da da da. No. I wish Mexico had a Second Amendment. Because it's in Oaxaca. It's not that far from Jalisco. That's where I live. It's not that far. And if it comes knocking on my door, I gotta respond with what I gotta respond with. I gotta protect my family. Do what you gotta do to protect yours. Don't let the government isn't gonna take care of you. So, some food for thought. Good night.